So I'm gonna try to play the Austin and try to be, you know, the person that just remembers what everyone does. So let me ask you guys a question. So yesterday I met a lot of cool individuals, and I still want to shake everybody's hands and give you guys hugs and everything. Mask came off, so I'm super excited. I'm gonna get close to people, get personal. So that's super. But one thing is we meet people and then we kind of like forget what they do. Like, how many times has it happened that you shake someone's hand, they introduce themselves to you, and then as soon as they walk away, what was their name again? That happens to me all the time, and I'm still trying. And that's really important for you, because how important is it for people to know what you do? Right? Think about that. What is the cost? How much is it costing you for people not to know you? You got to ask yourself that question. And the reason is that might be a realtor out here or investors. There's people in our family, they know what we do, but they forget. And so what that means is when we come in contact with people who can help us, or they come in contact with people who can help us, they don't think of us first. And that's important. And what we need to do is actually remind people what it is that we do. We're investors. So let me put things into perspective when I ask that question, right? So people understand the context of what I'm saying when I ask, how much does it cost you for people to not know what you do? What I mean is, you might know someone who owns a building like this, and you're an investor. And they're talking to the guy, and the guy says, I'm trying to get this building off my hands. And you're an investor. They know you're an investor, but they don't connect the dots. Why? Because people are interested into what they're doing, and they forget what you do. And it's the same thing. I know I'm in a room full of investors. I know there's people where you get a chance to know them, and then you forget what they do. So our job is to remind people what we're doing, how we can serve them. And the reason why it doesn't matter what my introduction is, because the reality is what matters is what you're going to remember from this talk, right? From the value that you're going to get. It doesn't matter what I do. You're going to forget, wait, does he podcasting? Is that what he did? No, it matters when you're sitting down as what's in it for me, right? And so the question is when you ask yourself the question of how much is it costing you for people to not know you, got to think about that for a second. Is it costing you a potential next deal? Is it costing you a key relationship? Right? We've all met each other virtually, some of us. How much does that cost you? Right? Think about that. Is there a number that comes to mind? Like a deal? Is there a figure anybody wants to share? I don't know if there's an amount that comes to mind. What's your number?
We said about $7.40 for customer average cost to acquire customers' information. $7.40.
How much do you make off said customers?
It depends, but I would say on average we're getting about a 60 to 50,000 markup at $7. So we'll make like 30 to 40 grand maybe sometimes off of that person. Over a period of time.
Just one person, right?
Just one.
Lifetime,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And it's the same question you got to ask yourself for like a deal or a client, right? It's the same thing. It's the lifetime value is what you're talking about, right? You got to think of that number and start. And the reason I'm asking this question is that number has everything to do with attention, right? So for a second, I'm going to give you guys some real tactical advice here. So you guys got phones, right? Why don't you pull it out just like I have mine out and go to your settings option and go to screen time. If you have an Android, I think you got to go to your settings, go to like parental and guide control. But if you have an iPhone, just look for screen time. Let me know if you guys got that. Your setting may need to be turned off if you see a 0 number, but you'll have a number up there. You guys have a number? Does everybody have a number? Does anybody want to share their number? What is it? Seriously.
5 hours. 40
That's not bad, actually.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's what do you got?
5.5.
Is anybody?
3.5.
That's good. You guys are good. You guys are producers. Anybody at 7? 8? Come on. 9?
Zach is guaranteed he's at 9.
Right. So we all got 24 hours in a day, and we got 5, 7, 8, 9, which means that this has our attention. And what I talked about is earlier, I met a few individuals. Oh, okay, this is what you do. Okay, got it, what you do. But I'm going to forget what they do. So the purpose is if you think about all the people who are in front of you, how many times have you consumed their content? Right? They say the average thing for a follow-up call, Gabe, you're a wholesaler. What is it? 7 touches? 7 touch points? 8, 9, 10? It's the same thing for marketing, right? So when we're presenting ourselves, we gotta reintroduce ourselves over and over again. And remember, our attention is here. So Austin said something very interesting, right? There's a lot of people that we've met that we didn't have to come in contact with, but where was the attention? It was here. It was in the application. It was on a podcast. It was on YouTube. It was on Instagram, because that's where the attention is, and that's where the time is being spent. So just when I asked that question, I'm trying to bridge the gap here. First ask, how much is it costing you for people not to know you? And then I ask you how much time you're spending on your phone and how much screen time you're spending, which then when I bring the two together, what I'm trying to show you is the amount of time and opportunities that we have to be in front of people. Because if we're not spending time trying to get in front of people, getting our message out, then people forget about us. There's people in our family that forget that we're investors, that forget what we do. They'll talk to you, a potential client, someone who has your dream, and they will not make the connection because you've literally forgot to remind them what you do. And as entrepreneurs, it's even worse because we're doing a lot of things. And hopefully you have some vertical integration somewhere where you can capture what it is that you're trying to serve, right? And so the number one thing I'll say is this: anytime we're thinking about serving people, it's all about the end consumer, your avatar, right? So one of the things, I'll give you guys an example. There's a lot of influencers in space. Who here knows what Bigger Pockets podcast is? Bigger Pockets, okay, great. Grant Cardone, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, who's that? Who is the creator, founder, CEO, I don't even know what his role is these days, of Tesla. Who is that?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. What about, who's the owner of Porsche? Why don't you know him?
No image.
Personal branding. Why is Elon Musk on Saturday Night Live when he has the kind of money that he has? Any guesses? Eyeballs. Screen time. It's marketing, right? You're in front of the people. He doesn't need a marketing, and he's still doing marketing. Why? What did Grant Cardone do? You guys know Grant Cardone. What does he say? If they don't know you, they can't flow you. If they don't know you, they can't flow you. If I don't know that Chris is in Jacksonville, and someone tells me they're trying to get rid of a deal in Jacksonville, and Chris doesn't remind me that he's in Jacksonville, I'm like, oh, good for you, man. Keep the good work in Jacksonville, right? And I'm not giving you that assist, right? So what I'm saying is omnipresence is everything, right? And so Bigger Pockets, content, podcasts. I've been listening to those guys for a while now. But what they're doing for me, they're giving me an education. They're giving me something I can walk away with. But they know their avatar. They know who they're serving. Grant Cardone, he literally doubled his portfolio because I remember when I was at the conference, I've gone to GrowthCon, and he said he was really admiring everyone who's in social media because he understood what the power of that meant. But now, Grant Cardone is not the biggest, player in the game when it comes to real estate, but he's really big when it comes to marketing because people know who he is. Most of you guys know who he is. So he's playing the game. And he also doubled his portfolio because of the eyeballs. Attention. He's in the attention business, just like many of us are. And it's important that we start factoring that in because we might be investors, we might be doing a lot of things, but we are in the attention business, in the relationship business. That's why we're here today. And many of us actually connected by not even having met in person, virtually, screen time. Consume some content. That's how I met a lot of you guys, right? Because of the content I'm putting out. And then it turns into real relationships, which then turns into real business. I can speak on that, and I can speak on that for a lot of my clients, right? So it's really important that you start thinking about it. Now here's the next thing. The next thing is gonna be, okay, imposter syndrome, right? Because you're gonna say, okay, yeah, but they're creating content because they got, X amount of numbers of units or X amount of achievements. But I can tell you right now that you need to stop thinking about creating content for yourself and start thinking about creating content for the person you're trying to attract in your world, right? That could be a partner, that could be a client, that could be, maybe it's a contractor, whoever it is, that's called purposeful content, right? So the content, you need to start thinking of not what I need to create, but what is the outcome. Right? What is the why when you're creating that content, right? You don't need a crew. You don't need to be an expert because you can have experts actually come onto your platform and then create real connections with them. But what you're doing is you're creating content for the person. So now the number one thing, if you don't get anything from today, is the avatar. The avatar is who you're trying to serve. And now, how do you create good content? It's by literally answering the questions that they already have. I always say quality content stems from having quality questions that you ask. Now, obviously you guys know I'm in the podcast space, and I can definitely say the podcasting has changed my life and changed the lives of many clients because I've done just that. Before I had even invested in real estate, I had real estate people because I wanted that proximity, and I got the knowledge, which then led to deals, partnerships, etc. Right? And because we only have 24 hours in a day, and you know how much time we're spending on this, right? I talked about this in my TEDx talk. We only have 24 hours in a day. So what is it for us that we need to do is we need to play the contact sport even when we're not there. So how do I do that? How do we help our clients do that? It's by podcasting. Now, podcasting is just a form. The reason why I'm so big on podcasting is because it allows you to do a few things. One is connect with really cool individuals so you can learn from them, right? But now the good thing is if you understand who your audience is, then you understand what questions you need to be asking on their behalf. And if anything, here's how you double dip. If you're your own audience and you know what questions you have because you represent the avatar of your audience, then you can then represent them or ask the exact same selfish questions that you have so you can get the data. Because people are willing to share the data and information by asking the question. Now here's the thing, a lot of people always ask the question of who are you creating content for? I say forget all that. It's not even who. It's not, the avatar is not even about the who, right? Because people will say marketing, it's the avatar, it's a who. How old are they? How much money they have? What demographic? It's not the who. Throw that away. It's the why, right? We were talking about this yesterday, the why. The why always leads to the result. Why are people trying to invest with you? Oh, because they want freedom. Why do they want freedom? Because they want to spend more time with family. Okay, great. So let that lead with the result, right? Let that content lead to them into your ecosystem by the quality of questions that you ask on their behalf. If you're hosting an interview, a podcast style interview, or if not, it's coming up with the frequently asked questions that they have in their current world. What are the questions that they have to start investing with you if that's the case? Or marketing. So you got to really start strategically and purposefully creating content. You're not creating content just to create content, right? You have to be purposeful and strategic about it, right? If I want to learn financial advising, right, and I know that my clients might need to get their finances in order, guess what I'm going to do?
Talk about that.
Absolutely, but I'm going to ask them what questions they have so that when I get on the air, I ask you those questions, the financial expert, and guess what? I get value and then I pass it back on to my audience. Now here's the fun part, right? Because you're thinking, yeah, okay, cool, like I have a podcast too. Okay, but what are you doing? We talked about the 7 touch points, being omnipresent and all that. While we're working here, content is being created, right? Like right now, we have tons of clients that we're serving, including my brand, where there's tons of content going out. Right now I have a Facebook group, shout out to the Facebook group of podcast content multipliers, and I'm gonna repurpose that content because every single second, people's attention, it's okay if you guys wanna check your phones, I know that happens, right? You gotta check a message, your attention is going somewhere. So you gotta make sure you're always in front of the content that you've literally recorded. It can serve somebody else's why, right? The FAQs, it can serve them. So when I'm recording it once, I'm gonna repurpose that content so I can help more people, right? But I'm gonna be strategic in the content that I'm creating by asking the right questions, right? So how do we repurpose content, you asked? Well, in one episode we get about 12 to 20 pieces of content, if not more, by repurposing content. And when we repurpose content, we don't just repurpose to repurpose content, we repurpose content that will literally answer their questions. The number one way to think about creating quality content is these 3 questions. You can think about them like this. How can I save you time? Anthony talked about this. Time. How can I save you money? How can I make you more money? If you just focus on those things, you think about your content, it's all about that, right? Like, even coaching. I'm looking for an answer. I have not found the answer, I have an obstacle. We don't have an information problem. YouTube and Google is a hell of a platform. The answer is out there. There's not one problem that you're dealing with that people haven't dealt with that's out there, but there is a problem of content organization, right? Where do I go is the next question. Well, I mean, YouTube's one of the second largest search engines, so you can probably start there. Okay, but is it credible? Well, it will be because I know so-and-so is credible. They've been in this space for a while. So it's you, you're the brand. So you got to create that credibility by bringing them the content. One of the things that I do, right, is now when people have a question, and I've had someone on a podcast be, oh, you should check out my episode 50. I actually talked about that with this person who's credible. It's my content. And then they hear my voice, and then they hear his voice. They hear, oh, great. Now I feel like I know the guy. It's crazy that I've heard literally so many people say that I finally met so-and-so. We can play this contact sport on the air and still serve our audience and still build our brand and still build our credibility. Time, how can you save people time? How can you save them time? How can you save them time? How can you make them more money? And how can you save them money? Right? Those are the three things. Now, what you guys need to stop doing is going on other people's podcasts. I'm joking when I say that, and the reason I say that is you want to control your content, right? You want to be able to actually, I'm half joking when I say that because we're all serving each other, right? Like all this community, I've had a lot of people. My podcast wouldn't be a thing if I didn't have people willing to come on my podcast. But when I say that is have people on your platform, in your real estate that you control and own, right? It's also important to realize that you're leveraging these platforms. You don't own them. Keep that in mind. I'm a marketer. My background is in marketing. I've done a lot of stuff online, spent a lot of money on Facebook. You don't own those platforms. You want to leverage those platforms, right? You want to leverage them, but then you want to bring it into your ecosystem. So me and Austin always talk about this. What is it? Call to action, right? That's how we end everything, right? We don't just come here and create content to create content because people are listening to content and then they want to know what's next. So the biggest mistake you can do is give them good value and then not tell them what to do next. You would be surprised. Like even some of your landing pages, check them out. What do they say on the landing pages? Does it say find out more? Where? Where am I going? Book a call. Tell me what to do. You'd be surprised. It has to be so simple. What is the next step? I love this episode. I really want to work with this guy. What's next? Because you'd be surprised. My clients do this all the time. They'll come up and be like, hey, the number one thing I'll ask is, hey, Ruben, I want to start a podcast. Why? Oh, just because everyone's doing it? Okay, that's not good enough. You don't need a podcast. I won't do business with you. We always screen questions like, what do you want to do podcast? It has to be purposeful. Oh, because I want to do this. Okay, great. What's your call to action? What value are you giving them? Call to action? Yeah, like what happens after? Why are you creating a podcast? Like, what is the reason? Right? Anything, right? What happens next is. So think about that. Now, I've got some gems for you guys, right? You guys mind if I give you guys some gems? I got some good gems for you. I got a call to action hack that is powerful, and it goes back to controlling your platform. I was just telling Colin this. I was telling Gabe about it, and I'll give you guys a plug because there's a way you can actually get it on the low, right? Cheap. So it's have you guys heard of community.com? I like that. I like people like, oh shit, community. All right, community. So you don't even have that. So this is the thing. I'm gonna actually be the case study, right? Because I'll let you guys text me as well, and you can check it out. And my group knows this. My community numbers, because I had shout out to, I think Eric texted me this morning, and I'll be sending you a piece of content, but I don't have to. I can leverage the other platforms. I can send it. So here's community is this. It's a call to action. What it is you can get a community number, and I'm sure you've seen some influencers do this, but this will be important because it's good to go to other spaces and then leverage it in our space of investors, right? So community numbers, you get a community number, and then you can get someone to text you, to tell them to text you. So, and today I'm going to tell you guys if you're interested on, hey Ruben, how can I repurpose content? And we only work with people who are actually offering value. We don't just like, if you're getting started, I can give you a few resources and stuff. But if you're like, hey Ruben, I have a message, I have a product or a service to sell or a message to share with people because I'm doing things. right? I'm making an impact. So you can text me content, right? And I'll explain to you how it can work for your business, right? So you text me at 678-679-5613. If you guys want to text me, you can try right now. It's a community number. And so when you guys get your community numbers, what's really cool is, I'll give you the number again, don't worry. What happens is I can text you, right? So I'll tell you right now, text me content. You'll text me content, and now I'm know, oh, okay. I Construct Your Life, the mastermind, I told them to text me content. And now, so you've raised your hand that you're interested in content, right? Now what happens if I tell the exact same group, hey, text me podcast. If you're looking to get started in podcasting and you text me podcast, I know that you've raised your hand that you want to get started in podcasting. Now, what if you were going to start implementing that in your life, in your business, where you can actually say, hey, text me too hot in your properties if you feel like the temperature's been too hot and everybody texts you too hot. You can do anything you want, because what you're doing is you're batching big data. And you have a subgroup that texts you content, you have a subgroup that texts you podcast. Now, if I decide to then text, I can text back, I can send PDFs, I can do tons of things on this community app. And I can say, hey guys, I'm gonna go live for all those people who text me podcast, because I'm gonna be hosting a podcast mastermind. Now, I've taken people from one place where they consume content into my world. And you can do the exact same thing in your business, where you're actually collecting data and you have control. Because when you guys text me, and I hope you guys, or if you're interested, I don't want you to text me if you're not interested. If you need more, you're like, hey, I'm thinking of repurposing, what's this stuff, what are the resources you have? You will text me, and then I will have your information, and then I can directly send you information. Because how much time are we spending on your phone? The screen share time for some of you guys? We're always texting, right? We're always on our phones, right? So it's proximity, right? And so here's the thing, when you guys get your community numbers, if you guys are on community.com, you want to check it out, it's a cool app. Some of the influencers are using it. It's by default like $100 a month, literally. But then you just tell them, hey, I'm interested I have a list of 500, so I want to just start with the $50 a month, and they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. So ask and you shall receive. That's what you do, right? Because you'll have to schedule a call with a rep and everything, right? So that's important that you do that. Because that's your call to action. If your call to action should be something that gives proximity, and because people are always on their phone already, you should be close. So think about that. And then for some of you guys, you're thinking, hey, I don't have a podcast, etc. Again, the reason why I say podcasting is important is because there's proximity. You get to connect. I've connected with so many people at this point. I think we're over like $2 billion worth of real estate of people who have come onto my podcast. I've learned. I'm getting introductions. The social media thing is crazy. I've made deals from it. I've gotten deals from it. I've gotten sponsorships for my podcast from it. I've gotten more clients from it. I've gotten real connections from it. There's a lot of you guys, we met from Instagram. It's a real thing. Like if you use it, it's a tool, and we're playing a different game. You guys know this from the pandemic. That virtual, it's digital assets. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm launching a new segment for my podcast called Digital Real Estate, because I truly believe that everything is virtual. Everything, we see everything before we actually even get to touch it. Right? I have to type in the address in a virtual app before I got here. I reached out to, or Austin got an introduction from me via email virtually before I got here. Chris, I met on Instagram, right? Like, it's crazy. So Anchor.fm is an easy thing. I like to remove the friction, right? You can be like, okay, Ruben, how do I get started? Remove the friction. Yes, some people, I can tell you right now, I've done a lot of different hosting platforms, right, for podcasting. You can use a lot of different ones. Some you own your content. Anchor.fm, it's technically theirs, and Spotify, whatever. Remove the friction. Ask questions later. You can literally, I could start a podcast right now. What I'm actually gonna do, if you guys wanna know, I'm gonna take this segment from the Instagram live. Are we still live? Are we rocking right now? And I'm gonna turn this into a podcast. And then I'm gonna take clips from it. So let me tell you real quick how the repurposing piece works, right? You take a podcast episode like this with a very key strategic questions that you ask that can serve your audience, you start cutting clips from it. When you cut those clips from it, you put them up everywhere. Why do you want to put them everywhere? Because 50% of people listen to podcasts. And people who listen to podcasts do what? They listen to podcasts. That's what they do. You're not converting me if I listen to podcasts. Oh, you should check out the YouTube. No, I listen to podcasts, bro. Right? Okay, so what about YouTube? It's the second largest search engine in the world, right? Well, Instagram. Do you know your avatar? Do you know investors are now on Instagram? Do you know that, you know, is it the millennial? Do you know your target range of where people are hanging out? That's important. Where they hang out. Don't just say, I want to create content to create content. Know where people are hanging out. LinkedIn, Facebook. We're taking all the same clips of content and we're putting it in those different channels and platforms and audience because that's where people live currently. If some investors are on LinkedIn, they're always on LinkedIn. If some people are on Spotify, they're always on Spotify. You get it, right? So that's what we do. We repurpose that content so that it's like, hey, what does he do again? Well, forget that. It's not about what you do. It's about the value that you brought to them. Then they're going to connect the dots and figure out what you do. If Colin brings me tons of value, like, damn, I didn't know you could do that. That's the software that you use for property management. First of all, Colin's giving me so much information from this weekend, I owe him a drink, right? Shift, I gotta check this out. I like this guy already, I'm plugged, because he's giving me value. I didn't need to know, like, don't introduce yourself, hey, this is what I do. It doesn't matter, that's just gonna go like in one ear out the other. What can you do for me? I like this guy, he's giving me a lot of data already. Shift, okay, we talked about that. He talked about virtual assistants in Mexico, okay, great. He's giving me so much value, I'm like, okay, great, okay, all right. What does he do again? You see? Omnipresence first, then it's like, what do you do again? It's not, this is what I do once, and then you shut down and then you start doing what you're doing. And the beauty of it, we got content coming out every single day. We're posting content, and it's coming full circle on the compounds. The compound effect. Everybody read that? Comes full circle. So that's what this game is. It's a contact sport game. You want to be in the game and not wonder what happened, but know that you were in the game, playing the game, because it's a contact sport. And you'd be doing yourself a disservice. So ask yourself the question, right? How much does it cost you? I don't think you guys really took it in for a second. Think about it for a second before I drop. Like, how much is it really costing you for you not to be known? You didn't take that in. Like, I think you were thinking about it, but I don't think the rest of you guys were thinking about it. Like, how much does it cost you? How much does a deal cost you? I heard like a $2 million deal for this. Okay, cool. So maybe if the agent didn't know him, if it was an agent or the wholesaler, maybe they don't respond to the phone call. That's important. Maybe I respond to the phone call because I know this guy is doing the thing and he knows people and you can introduce me to people. And then repurpose, the reason, that's my tool, that's my vehicle. There's tons of vehicles out there. This is a vehicle, right? Bringing people together. The first thing, what did I do, Austin? Hey, do you have a video guy?
Yeah.
First thing I said.
Yeah.
Because you know what they say, if a tree falls in the forest and no one was there, did it really fall? Did this really happen? I mean, it really, and I don't mean that like, oh, you gotta flex and everywhere you go, this is what I'm doing, because there's some private time, right? That, you know, you might not see my fiance Celine and all my Instagram because maybe we're a little private, even though, you know, I'm trying to get her to come in front of the camera more, you know? So you can be selective, but you still, you know, you gotta put it out there. Call to action. What's next? I'll tell you what's next. I'm doing it right now. If you guys are interested in doing more, you guys know this is our community right here. Text me at 678-679-5613. I'd be doing myself a disservice, right, Austin? 678-679. What's that movie? Is it Paid in Full? 39. Is it Mike Epps?
I don't know.
49, 47. Anyway, 678-679-5613. Right? Text me content if you're interested in getting more information. All right? And repeat the process. Obviously execute your business, but while you're executing your business, you're creating content and people can always remember what you do. My job is done and yours has just begun, guys. Thank you so much, Austin, for having me. I appreciate it. So you can text me content. Right, and I'll explain to you how it can work for your business, right? So you text me at 678-679-5613. If you guys want to text me, you can try right now.